Scoop is in. We're going to be going through our current Supercoach overall teams to kick this off here. We'll do this reveal now, and then I know I will. Scoop might join in and show his team pre-round one before completely finalizing it. But yeah, it's just good to go through sort of team structure and why we're selecting type of guys and potentially where we think value is and maybe some of the upside guys that we want in our sides as well. So we'll kick it off with Scoop's team here, and then we'll go in and look at mine. So, mate, take it away. A nice projected round one score of 1,100. That looks pretty good. We'll take that.
Yeah, I mean, you don't always look at the projector scores, from the stats and from what your gut tells you. But yeah, you've got to start somewhere with the year. You can't fit all positions, so it's got to be a balance. This year is going to be especially interesting with the second row forwards. I've, at this stage, adopted a pretty mid-range strategy, and that's meant I've started pretty cheap up top. Lussick or Hands, whoever ends up being there, it's going to be one of my two hookers. I'm debating whether to go a little bit more expensive for my other one, potentially back up to like a Jeremy Marshall King who I had before with that really nice early draw. And Lussick will be a very nice fill-in on their buy as well. I've tentatively got Brayley there, even though he's got the hooker minutes split currently, because I think he doesn't quite need as many minutes in Supercoach as he would in fantasy to be fully relevant, because he's very cheap at the moment. Anyway, so hookers are pretty cheap at the moment. I've gone for two mid-ranges. I really want Payne Haas, especially with no Flegler, and just he's going to dominate early season. I could see him averaging like 75 plus without much effort, to be honest. But I do think there is some upside in these guys. So we had Max King play through a couple of injuries last year, including one in his foot, which didn't really need to be fixed until the end of the year. And we've just had Ryan Sutton go down. So, I mean, where personally do you have Max King averaging the start of the year?
Yeah, it's an interesting one. It's more just that position for me. And if I want to spend up above sort of the 400K mark and then get into the fives is more where I'm at, because I definitely see him with a little bit of upside, but I just don't see him having the attacking upside. So yeah, potentially a few more minutes, probably can get to that 600K mark, which would be fine, right? And he's the alpha, the big dog in that pack that is going to get the minutes each and every week. And so it's a really easy player to slot in there. So yeah, I don't see any downside. I only see upside or staying the same. So yeah, and Sutton news being out is very, very easy to slot him in there. There's no worries on that one. And then Cotter, obviously the news with him being co-captain and has the dual position. There's a lot to like with Cotter as well.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think Wiki can go really any lower than last year. And the only knock I have against him, especially that some others have brought up, he's never really averaged over about 60 before. But I do think that he can, similar to Max King, push up towards that value and just hold that position firm, because you've got two sort of strategies. You can smack two guys there who don't have an early buy with a little bit of value and ride them through to Origin, or you can sort of gun up with Haas and someone maybe a little bit cheaper, and then you're probably going to be forced into a trade before that time. And do you want to be trading too much in front row forward, or do you want to be chasing the high upside guys and putting out fires in, I guess, more volatile but more upside positions like your 5/8, like your center wing, even fullback potentially? So that's probably why I've got that at the moment. Other option I've considered is Terrell May, depending on how his minutes go. PPM beast. If he ends up starting this year and getting sort of 40, 45 minutes, he could be averaging almost as much as potentially somebody like Cotter or Max King. So if he's looking like he's going to get a good chunk of the minutes, I could go him, maybe him and Haas even. But yeah, it is quite a lot of money in a position that doesn't have as much upside. But yeah, the
Yeah, that's
other
cool. We'll look at
downside is that if you don't, you kind of bleed points. So
yeah, we'll look at the rest of your team structure and then discuss it from there. Go for it. Second row forwards.
yeah, so I've gone a little bit similar to fantasy, to be honest. I've got like your Curran and your Piakuras in there. Curran, I think, is a little bit safer now, at least for the first bit with the Sutton news as well. So I'm very happy to just chuck him in here. Lane, as I discussed on the Supercoach Hub podcast, I think Lane's probably the only guy in the second row forward category who it's really, really hard just to go against. I mean, you can find arguments to not go for Wong or some of the Roosters forwards. It's like, do they split minutes? Does they really have enough time to get their points? Does Curran get the minutes? Have you got things like Fermor being on the wrong side, outside Boyd rather than Foran, things like that. But Lane, we've seen him in the past in Supercoach be fantastic scorer, and he's just so cheap. He hasn't been priced up 5 points in fantasy, like in fantasy, and we're still talking about him in fantasy. So for Supercoach, I think like you just have to pick Lane and a couple of other guys. There's probably like 15 you can go with. At the
Yeah.
moment, I've got 4 mid-ranges, 2 cheapies. Howarth's just sitting there at the moment as a placeholder because it's in flux. I have considered going up to like a Murray because I do think there is a bit of value there potentially if he's on the park for more minutes and the Rabbitohs improving. And it also lets me go up to somebody like if Fafita kills it with that early Titans draw and is averaging 100 to start the year, well, then it's a lot easier to get to him from Murray than it is from all these other guys, isn't it?
Yeah, for sure. What do you thought? Do you think we're actually going to get two cheapy 2RFs to slot in?
I think we're probably going to get one. I
Okay.
don't know if we'll get two. So I had Pierce Paul there for a bit,
Oh yeah.
but yeah, I mean, it said they want him to start at some point for the year. I don't know if that's round one. He might be on the bench round one,
Hmm.
but I mean, if he does start in round one, he just goes straight back in.
Sweet. Move to halfbacks.
Yeah, I've gone pretty heavy in the halves, to be honest. Hines Cleary, I've seen a lot of people with that. I've seen a few go with like a Moses with that early Eels draw as well. I had him in for a while as well, but I just didn't like having to rely on both Eels halves for points because often you'll get one that scores well and one that does all right, but not amazing. So if I'm going Moses and Brown, I'm probably wanting close to 150 points a week from both of them, right? And that's if the Eels get flattened in a couple of these matches, what do? Hey? So I'm probably just going to stick with one of the two for now.
Cool.
Jaden Campbell, I really like his potential upside. I have had guys point out to me that he's never really averaged heaps more than about sort of that 55 mark, but I mean, that early Titans run, I don't know if he needs to average that high. He just needs a couple of really good ceiling games and he's there. So I'm pretty happy to start with at least one or two Titans in my team, whether that's Campbell and Furmore if he's on the right side or something like that. So I think I'm pretty happy with taking at least Campbell to make use of that really soft Titans early start.
Yes, sir. All right. Center wing.
Center wing, I really like Isaac Tungo. If he's on that Cleary side, I've wanted to for fantasy, but like he's so much money, I just don't think you can do it.
Yep.
Supercoach is built for stuff like that. You've got to pick the right center wing guns early. You've got to pick the ceiling plays, like Isako last year. I've seen guys having like Avarillo in here as well with that soft start, and I've toyed with having one or two Dolphins in here, Dolphins or Titans in here as well. But yeah, I'm just coming back to the fact that Tungo on the right side, outside Cleary, if he is moved to there and they go for like Taylor May at left center when he's back, I just see that being points, 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 and he could elevate from really good to just basically the top of the lot.
Cool. So yeah, you're more playing for either way. You're going to have one gun in the CT dub.
Yeah, I think I'm going to have either Tungo or Kiraz if Kiraz starts at center. One of those two. Supercoach Corrupt pointed out to me that basically you have got to start off strong if you want a good rank in Supercoach because it's really hard to catch up compared to something like Fantasy. And the first two, the people who were leading after the first week or two were guys who had a couple or even three guns in this position. So I do want a slice of that, even in it, though it's a little bit tougher this year. So
Yep.
I've gone for Bostock with that early draw. I've gone for Strange and Iro. I don't know if we're going to get both. Stewart or Savage is going to be there. And currently I've got, with Nofaluma being released, I've got Alamealo there. I don't know whether who's going to be the wing at the Tigers at this stage, but if we get indications from trials that it's going to be one of the real cheap Tigers, rather than moving like a Stafford Toa or somebody like that out to the wing, I'll probably start with whoever's there.
Yep. My only concern with that CT dub is, are we going to get those four cheapies, and are we going to get four cheapies in general, even if it's not them in that position? Is my worry for your
Yeah,
squad.
it is tough. We're struggling to get more than a couple for fantasy, and you've got more positions to fill in Supercoach. So to be honest, I don't think we're going to get all of them. I think they're going to change a little bit, but in that case, I may end up going back to somebody like uh, a Cotter down to a Terrell May or a Campbell down to a Weeks if he's picked, to just put a little bit more safety in my center wing, depending on who's picked.
Yeah, so you're clearly going for upside, aren't you, now with Ponga and Trbojevic in your fullbacks, double gun halves, and then pretty strong up in 5/8 as well, and just sort of happy to give away a little bit in a couple of the other positions, like centre wing and obviously potentially hooker as well.
Yeah, I think that I'm not going to get hurt by hooker and some of the other spots as much as I could by getting fullback wrong.
Yep.
If I go cheap at fullback, for example, if I put Jaden Campbell down here, or I go like Pappenhausen or something, and somebody way up the top, like Latrell starts hot, Trbojevic starts hot, whoever starts hot, if I don't have them, I can really easily get them. But if I don't, how do I get up there? And then I miss them. I got burnt a lot last year with missing a couple of the guys in fullback who just went on this huge run, like Gutherson. I think I missed. I got Drinkwater, but I missed guys like Gutherson and missed Ponga for a bit, but I got him in eventually.
Yeah. Did you
So
have
I
Buller?
don't want to. Pardon?
Did you have Buller?
No, I ended up missing him too. I was
Yeah.
a bit too stubborn with that, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So I am looking to get on those high upside guys who are hitting that ceiling early on. So I might suffer a little bit in the money making department. I might change some of this up a little bit because I mean, 5 guns out of those 6 positions is a lot. That feels to me probably a little too much, and
Mm.
especially with Campbell. So there's a very good chance that either Clear becomes Moses or Campbell becomes Weeks, and
Yep.
I can put more money into these other positions.
Yeah, may just have to out of necessity, hey, but we will find out in the trials, and obviously with NTLC. But your fullback slot, you're saying like, oh, you don't want to have a cheaper guy to be able to get up to these guys, but I suppose the big thing, you're buying them for that upside, right? Like, if
Yeah.
the more of those guys you pick, the more chance you get the guys that go on those 100 runs at the start. So Trbojevic could be that guy, and if like my team right now doesn't own him, and I'm going to be scared not owning him, and then that's going to be the thing. And you're looking at the high upside guys, and it looks like in center wing, apart from Tungo, you're hoping that these cheaper guys can score okay enough to offset the potential upside from the other guys, right? Is that your general strategy?
Yeah, I think so. I'm looking for key money making, probably in center wing and in second row. But as you said, that we might not get some of these guys. So there's a little bit of inevitability. They're gonna have to change up something just to patch up what we get in TLT.
Yep.
But I don't mind this structure, going for quick points early on, playing the draws, and hopefully really strongly making money in the positions that I'm giving up a couple of points on.
For sure. Sweet. I like it. I'll jump in and share my screen now so we can have a look at the squad that I'm
Yep.
rolling out
Do I
there
need to
for.
stop sharing or?
We're all good. I'm straight up and ready to go. So right now I have a little bit of a sort of a structure set up with my squad, and I took out all the guys that I'm not sure on at the moment, or we're not sure if they're going to get roles in the side. So I have taken out Kale Iro. I have taken out Strange as well. And that leaves me right now with 6 positions with $2.5 million. So not too bad, a little bit over 400K for each. And the question mark for now is what we do in hooker. Potential options for me is if I go double cheapy, that gives me some space to go a gun down the center wing. I did have Kiraz in here, so let's just play around with that and see what that looks like if we did go for Kiraz if we went for a sort of a Jeremy Marshall King. I was looking at Blake Brayley as well, just to have a pretty sort of solid start. A guy that you can kind of hold in that position for a long time that's very durable. That was more the thought in him rather than having the upside. But guys like Jeremy Marshall King have the upside, and obviously potentially, just going right up top with Harry Grant. But let's just say Jeremy was the way we went with that one, along with Hands, who's the slightly more expensive one. We'll just chuck that in for now. 932 for 3 players then, and that would allow me to slot a, let's just say it is a Savage. We'll go with that, and he could be sort of a, first off the bench, and then whatever cheapie that could be. And then I'm looking for a cheapie as well in that 2RF. And if that was the case, it leaves me about 140 in the bank. And that could move things around probably in that front row forward position. Could get a little bit more juice for sure. I had like guys like Totola in that sort of mid 400s, or we could try and go up closer to like a Cotter or something like that. But yeah, we'll leave that here, mate, and have a bit of a discussion as to where that's at. So King and Hands up top. It's like, do you go double cheapie? Do you go a gun with a cheapie? Gun and cheapie seems safer, obviously, as well. Front row forward, you've gone Max King, I've gone Liam Knight. I just think the dual position, nice to have one. You personally have Cotter with that one, and will likely score better. Knight, kind of one of those guys that I'm going to put in my front row forward rather than you've gone for a center wing that you're kind of hoping scores okay. I'm hoping Knight scores okay and just does a job. Henry's a nice cheap price. Do you think he gets a 17 position for Panthers as well?
I'm hoping. I think it's pretty close. Eisenhuth has been the humble servant in the past, playing back up to Yo most of the time, and does get those big minutes when they're away. So I think that he's probably just ahead, but Henry is sort of the future. If they do want to keep him and not lose another Hopgood type of player, they're probably going to have to play him at some point. So if he's not there, I'll just switch him over to Willison.
Awesome. So that's that position at the moment. Front row forward is very, very fluid at this point, but yeah, we need to find out. Terrell May, I'd like to have him in my side if he is likely to play decent minutes, but we'll find out more. And there's a bunch of guys at that option, at that price point, with the Sellers, the Totolas, these types of guys that could like do a job. And that's probably all I'm looking for in the front row forward. Totola's got his spot in the team, for example. 2RF, though I've gone Blore instead of Wong at this point, but that could definitely change. There's lots of options. Obviously, Fermor as well. I just went for these guys. They were just a little bit cheaper than Fermor was at 460 odd. I'm thinking 445 and below is where I've looked at here. I've got Tallis Dunk in there, and then I think, space for one cheapy little pop-up. Seems pretty fair. Hines and Cleary as the top guns. They're in the half position for obvious reason. Again, you can go Mitch Moses, like you said, instead of a Cleary or a Hines. You could go to like maybe a Sam Walker. They'd be the other two options, I'd say, for me, but unlikely to change at this point. And then Aiden Caesar down below, but I just don't see the attacking upside from him. At the moment, I haven't been able to fit in that second wing fullback gun, so I've gone Weeks at this point with Campbell down below in the fullback slot with Ponga as well, and Brown, just like yourself. Very, very clear. Good options. Brown or Munster is the play. Brown you can keep all year. Munster, obviously the origin plays a part there. The buy in round 4, there's a few things to think of. And buy in round 4, you can switch Weeks and Campbell around, obviously, and you could play Campbell in that slot, in the 5/8 slot there when Munster has a buy. But Brown you can keep all year, can't you? So the one I wanted to mention for yourself was Taylor May at 458. Any reason why he didn't make your side?
He's only just come out recently, to be honest, and that's just because he was a little bit more expensive than some of these other options.
Okay.
And with me going so heavy in a couple of these other spine positions, shall we say, I've just found it really hard to put anything that looks like a balanced team on. So maybe that's a symptom that I should be downgrading somewhere to do that, because he does have quite a lot of upside.
My only worry here with Averillo, I just slotted him in. The duel was cool. If he was playing on the right side, but there's a little bit of chatter that he's training on the left with Bostock, which I like less. So that may change. If that was the case, that would likely change. If he's on the right, I do like him. I was playing around with obviously Dylan Lucas, but he doesn't likely have the role anymore. Then there's like Tyrone Munro, but he's still fairly expensive and his role is unsure. I do really want Eisenhuth, him there at 356. So it's like a placeholder at the moment. If he gets the starting spot, sweet. If not, we can change him up. And I've got Alamalo there and then likely another cheapie to be had on that bench. So yeah, that's where we're at the moment. It's likely to change, guys. But yeah, important to see like the two of our structures a little bit different. I've got a little bit more cash in center wing. You've got more in fullback, and then front row, and I've got a little bit more in hooker at the moment. So it's just where you think that your balance sits, really. Do you have any general thoughts on the team before we finish up?
I do like that you're able to put in some more flexibility in centre wing because even though fullback and potentially halfback these days are the best scoring positions, center wing is kind of the arguably the most important for just ticking along throughout the year. You've got the cash making and you've got to be able to hit those high upside scores, those 100+ scores. So I think that being able to have some flexibility and fluidity in that with guys on soft draws, a bit like an Avarillo and stuff like that included, is really important. So I do like your setup. I may have to move around some of my money to improve it.
Yeah, a lot will change though for sure. Like that center wing, I see being very different. Apart from I think Taylor Made for me is the only lock. Um, and then yeah, as I said, like as you saw before it started, there was a bunch of positions that I'd kind of pushed out, and Averillo and Eisenhuth are definitely those that could be out of that side as well. And to our effort, it's just gonna be little muck arounds if we get Crichton. Obviously, Wong could be in there as well, depending on what we hear from coach and everything else of the like. So I think at this point, it's worth just having a bit of a general idea of your team and then just learn from now, guys. That's what I'm doing personally rather than fiddling around as much. As you can see, I had, the 6 or 7 people out of the side just to be like, these are guys I'm not sure of, and there's no point fiddling until we find out more. So thanks for jumping in and, doing some learning and checking out our teams. I know we all like a team reveal. This will be our last one for our overall teams until the season starts. So yeah, thanks for being here and catch you in the next one.